super glad that we're able to sit down again and chat a little bit more about what the market's doing right now today. Because
it's crazy.
Yeah, right? From personal experience with people that we are obviously helping buy and sell, and then ourselves as well, taking advantage of the market. Like, you got to follow what you're preaching to other people. So, I mean, Jack, a little bit about
we're getting involved, right? So we really weren't on the radar screen as a buyer or a seller this year. No. And we fell in love with the house. They always say agents are the worst buyers to have, right? You fall in love before you ever get pre-approved or anything. So we submitted an offer and didn't get it, right? Yeah. The house we submitted had 9 offers on it.
9 offers. Yeah.
We were middle of the pack. I mean, it was just crazy. We thought we really came in with a strong offer.
Slam dunk.
Yeah. And so it got the wheels spinning. We decided, we're probably going to sell within the year. We need some more space for our toys and just kind of spread our wings. And with as crazy as the market is, we're just going to sell and rent because it's tough to get a contingent offer accepted these days. So
but I think the other half of that, though, also, like for us personally, would be taking advantage of what we know and what's happening right now in the market. Because whether it's ourselves, putting an offer in for our own family or helping the other families that we've had the opportunity to help buy or sell, on either side of that playing field, it's multiple offer.
Yeah. And there's so many components that are driving this market, right? And so, obviously COVID's still a very big thing and a hot topic as we're all trying to figure out how to live with COVID. I don't think we can beat it. We got to figure out how to live with it, right?
Yeah, there's no living without it anymore, right?
Right. That's the thing. And so, prior to COVID, we already had an inventory issue, right? And we talk about this all the time. If there's a desirable something and a bunch of people that want that something, well, guess what? The prices start moving up, right? And so you have this component happening where there's a very small amount of inventory. So anyone who is thinking about selling is going, sweet, I'm going to get the bang for my buck. Then you have this mix of low interest rates, right?
Yes.
And a lot of people are like, probably wondering why rates are so low. We usually don't touch on that and actually go behind the why on that. And, so I'll give you guys just a kind of quick overview of why we're in such a low interest rate environment, which is also compounding. Everybody who is buying is going, oh man, now is the time to buy because this is the cheapest form of money you've ever been able to obtain.
Well, even for us, right? We had you run the numbers for us and we're like, wait, that's going to be a cheaper payment than a least expensive house before. It was just amazing, and simply because the interest rates.
Well, that's what drove our final decision. Was it's such a hot market, and then interest rates are so low, we can get more homes for the same amount that we're paying now. So it makes total sense.
Yeah. So I'll give you guys just a quick summary of why we're in such a low interest rate environment.
Yeah.
The thing that we don't know is how long it's going to be. No one really has that crystal ball. We have some kind of, predictions on it, but we don't really know that. And so, as COVID started to really hit, the government has to take some time and think about what type of financial impact that has to all of us, right? And we know that housing is kind of like the backbone of the economy. We've seen that before. If housing goes, we're in trouble, right? Yeah. We saw that happen during the housing crash, and that's scary. And we go, okay, well, let's learn from our past mistakes because it took us forever to climb out of that, right? So as part of the stimulus package, the government said, let's do this thing called quantitative easing. And all that means in plain English is that the government has agreed to buy mortgage-backed securities, to buy bonds, okay? And so on our side of things, you have mortgage-backed securities which control interest rates. So the government can't call Mr. Bank of America and go, hi, Mr. Bank of America, we need you to lend cheaper money, because that's not how it works, right? They can't just force the private sector to do something. But what the government is allowed to do is put government dollars into that private sector. So when mortgage-backed securities are purchased, this is very general rule of thumb stuff. When mortgage-backed securities are purchased, it lowers interest rates. When people sell them, interest rates go up. Well, when the market opens, the government analyzes that, and I should say more the Fed does, and then they buy billions of dollars of mortgage-backed securities. This is why you're seeing interest rates stay so low, is that we actually have government interference on happening. Like, this isn't like this amazing market where people are just going, let's all buy bonds, right?
Yeah.
And so we're in such a unique time because, you know, most of us thought the stock market was going to collapse. It didn't. And then you're like, okay, bond market should have collapsed. It didn't. Okay, well, maybe is it going to be gold? Nope, people are buying gold. I even looked the other day and Bitcoin's doing fantastic. Because I'm trying to figure out this.
This going to happen?
Then real estate's doing fantastic, right? And so that's not really normal in a normal economy where like everything's doing great. Usually we got this balancing system that happens. And so as we're trying to make sure that, and I say we, our government, our country is trying to make sure that if people are buying homes, they can keep low payments, or if they're refinancing, they can keep low payments. They're going to consistently keep their foot on the gas to keep rates low. Now, as we actually do climb out of this, whenever that happens, it's not in anyone's best interest because we're digging ourselves bigger debt, right? So we did the very similar thing in 2008 with quantitative easing, and we saw amazing interest rates for a long period of time. But when they took their foot off the gas, that's when we started seeing those rates rise. And so for anyone who's a home buyer right now or a home seller, you have a window of opportunity. The point that I'm trying to make is we don't know how long that window of opportunity is.
And I think that's like absolutely key for a lot of people who are considering selling but aren't sure if it's the right time for them to buy. And maybe I'll wait until the new year. I'm going to wait until next year. I'm going to wait till prices go down, right?
We hear that a lot.
And so my thought process is, okay, you're waiting for home prices to go down, so it's better for you to buy. Well, your house is going to go down as well.
Yeah.
So you're not going to outbeat these low interest rates by waiting for this drop that hasn't happened yet. And it's not going to happen when our inventory is just so low that exactly like you said, like there's one thing and there's all these people that want it. The value is going to hold, if not grow.
There's a few circumstances where it makes a lot of sense for someone either to jump in the game as a buyer or to sell and jump in. And so I'll kind of give two off the top of my head as we're discussing this. I shot a video the other day specifically targeted at renters. And what I was trying to explain is that oftentimes people that are renting tell me like, well, do you think we're in a bubble? I don't know if we're in a bubble, but it might not matter if we're in a bubble, because if you're paying $2,000 of rent a month, that means that, you know, you're essentially spending $24,000 a year on rent. So in a 2-year period of time, you're at $48,000. So if you buy a house and in 2 years it drops 48 grand, you're at break even.
Well, and even if it does, if you're not selling, who cares?
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't
That's the
hurt
other
you,
aspect.
right?
Doesn't matter.
That is the other part.
But if you were worried about a bubble, it doesn't matter because your rent's indefinite. Like there's no getting out of it. And if you overpay for something that you own, you still can pay that thing down. If you're paying a high rent, you're not paying down anything. So that's one circumstance. The other circumstance that makes a lot of sense is if you're somebody who's debating whether or not it's time for you to move up, and you maybe have a 4% interest rate, which was a great rate, by the way, but maybe you have a 4% interest rate or higher, and you're going, well, we do really want to move, but we're not sure what the market's going to do. Maybe we should refinance. Don't refi in this. Here's an opportunity to take a house where your payment's going to be higher because you're in the 4%, buy a more expensive house, drop somewhere into the high 2s, maybe low 3s, and you might be able to even lower your payment with a more expensive house.
Right?
Like you guys are looking at that, your exact scenario.
Just some clients recently, they're actually above 4%, and just had the same conversation. We were looking at a house that's $200,000 more than the house they bought currently, and their payment's going to be about $200 more, just because the fluctuation of where they were, interest rate, what they were able to put down, and being able to move up, because now they have so much equity that they're able to put so much more towards this next purchase than they ever were on the first house.
But that's the goal of owning homes, is to build the equity, to roll it into your next home, and to get that one step closer to what your dream house is. Is to use that time. It's going to pass anyways.
And the reality, and one thing that I wish we would focus on more is that you don't buy a house for the price of the home. You buy a house for the price of the home plus the interest. So whatever your payment is, most people take 30-year fixes. You're making that payment 360 times. So if you can go and get something else that maybe costs more. I do that because, again, house price plus interest, it might not actually cost more because of how fantastic interest rates are right now.
Yeah.
So it's just a great strategy.
Yeah, and it's in November alluded to it earlier, the inventory is just, I mean, our office is almost at a record high for how many listings we've taken.
Wow.
And there's still no houses for sale. I mean, it's like, I don't know how that happens, right? They're just flying off the shelf. You put a home on the market on Thursday, it's multiple offers by Monday, and there's just not enough. And so when, we talked about, we weren't really even thinking about selling, but we do want to take advantage of the market, and we know that we probably would sell within the next 12 months. So why not take the action now when we know what we know versus, like you said, who knows when the interest rates may change or what's going on with all the other things that can go on. And so the only thing we know for sure is right now. Right?
Yeah, and I imagine as people are listening to this, they're probably going, okay, fantastic. I hear what you're saying. How? How do we do this? I got kids in school.
Right.
We got to figure out the moving. We got all of these parts happening. Like, it sounds great, but like, how do we do it? Right. Like, so what's like some good advice for somebody who's watching this that goes, that's a great, I'd love to do this, but I'm just stuck.
Well, I mean, right now I'm working with 2 different families, and one we just closed 2 weeks ago actually on their house, and it was the same thing. They had kids that were in school. We got to figure it out. They were moving from Issaquah all the way over to West Seattle. Should we sell first, find a place to live, and then buy? And it just ended up being that we were able to be contingent. And the second family was the same thing, but they ended up buying a house that they were building. So we sold their house because we know what the market is now. We were able to get both of them multiple offers above list price. One family got to move into their next one, and the next one is just renting for the time being until their home is built. And so there's different, and we've worked with people all across the spectrum of what do you need, because we're hands-on. So let us help you find those rentals if that's what you need to be, so that we can be more aggressive or competitive in our offer and not be contingent, right? Like, let us help you, talk to, if you want a new home built, like we've worked with all these different people. So the first step would be talk to us so we can do a market analysis. We can understand where you are, and then we can lay out all these different avenues, and you choose what works best for you, because we're here to help you every step along the way.
On the financing side, one of the things I think that we're able to solve in some of the cases is that a lot of times people have an issue with the down payment, but not the debt to income ratio. So in a lot of cases, they qualify for both houses, but they just go, well, we need the money from house A to put into house B. And there's some solves there as well. We've done, home equity lines. There's some solutions. There's even sometimes people will borrow from retirement and know that they're going to get their funds back from the sale of their house and pay it right back. So these are all conversations that I think we should be having with people, because in a perfect world, if you don't have to go contingent, you can buy. We know this sucker is going to sell every single time this guy's gone.
Absolutely.
We know that if you have to do something where you're borrowing from retirement or doing a HELOC or something of that sort, we know that money's going to get paid back pretty dang quick. And it alleviates some of that stress where you can get into the house, move all of your stuff out, and then sell this other one.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think that's an avenue that a lot of people don't even know to look down, what you just said. So I think that's a huge piece. Like, if you take anything away from this, besides like, hey, let us help you and give you the answers and the tools so you can make the best decision for you and your family, is that there's so many options for you on the financing side.
Well, even like what we're doing, we don't know where we're going, but we're just going to sell the house. We found I didn't know this, there's all these furnished rentals that people do for traveling nurses, traveling professionals. So we didn't want to move twice. That sounded horrific, right? And so we're just going to put it in a pod or storage, and we're going to do a furnished rental until we find a place. And that when we do, we just move our stuff in. So there's all kinds of options, right? It's not just super cookie cutter, right? It's not just find your house, move in, and it's that simple in today's market. But there's systems in place, and there's always somewhere to go. We've yet to have anyone homeless. That's for sure.
Exactly. And again, this is all obviously geared towards people who are trying to move up, right? Sell the current house to move into the next bigger and better.
Perfect. Well, I think this is probably a good place to end this, and so we don't bore you guys all with us talking.
We can talk about it forever.
We could talk about this. I've got good dad jokes. Well, I'm not a dad. Like, we could keep it going.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, if anyone has questions as you're listening to this, whether it's on the finance side or on the real estate side, we're here to answer any of those questions. We're the furthest thing from high pressured salespeople. We really pride ourselves on being a resource and being educators. So
absolutely.
Yes.
Thanks for your time.
Absolutely.
Alrighty.